Change projects sometimes fail because they don't measure adoption. In this video, I will show you how to track change adoption metrics and KPIs step by step so you can boost adoption. One key thing to keep in mind is that your leadership team, as well as your senior stakeholders and executives, they oftentimes request to see a portfolio overview change management matrix report, which is similar to what I am currently sharing on my screen. Such a report includes holistically how many projects are being implemented as part of your program across the organization. What's the percentage of individuals that are impacted? A holistic report can also show change impacts per project per severity, as well as stakeholder impacts per project, and many more. So as we progress with today's video, some of the things we will be discussing, we will be making reference to this holistic reporting dashboard. What are change adoption metrics and why is it important to know the real definition? Change adoption metrics are the key measures and KPIs that organizations use to track whether employees, impacted teams, and stakeholders are successfully adopting new processes, technologies, and behaviors during a transformation. Sometimes referred to as adoption KPIs, change measurement indicators, or employee adoption metrics. These benchmarks really help leaders and also change stakeholders assess progress and ensure that organizational change initiatives deliver the intended results. For example, if you are looking at the OCM solution dashboard that I am currently sharing on my screen, or if you take a look at whatever change management software your organization is using, you should be able to see these key pieces of information that allows you and also your leadership to be able to make decisions based on the change management measurement that you are conducting. There are three key mistakes you want to avoid with change adoption metrics. Mistake number one, focusing only on activity, not outcomes. So basically measuring training attendance as an example, but ignoring on the job behavior. So what you want to do to mitigate this particular mistake is you want to include outcome-based adoption KPIs. For example, process compliance, productivity impact. What about mistake number two? Here it is. For mistake number two, it really involves a lack of baseline data. So without a pre-change benchmark, progress is difficult to measure. That is why we normally recommend that you do a baseline assessment of your change adoption, how people are progressing with adopting changes. And then weeks later, or it could be 2 months later, you want to do another assessment and compare that against the baseline. The third one is what we currently have here on the bottom left of my screen, which is we tend to see project managers and change managers make the mistake of overcomplicating the change adoption matrix, using too many or using irrelevant indicators tend to confuse stakeholders and also other leaders that are looking at your matrix. Our recommendation is focus on the top 5 most critical metrics tied to business outcomes. And sometimes people say, what about 6 or 7? Sure, you can focus on 6 or 7, but the best practice is 5 to 7. Okay? Now, there is a question that I often get from change practitioners. They tell me, how do I respond when my manager or my leadership or my stakeholder, when they ask me this particular question, the why question? Why is tracking and measuring change management metrics, why is it important? The reason why leaders are asking this question is they see you taking time to do measurements of change adoption. And so they want to know the value of why you are taking the time to go do that. So here is how you respond when you get that question. You say, without measuring adoption, leaders might believe that a project is successful, only to discover later on that employees never fully embraced the change. Benefits of change adoption metrics include increased adoption rates, basically ensuring that employees use new tools and processes. Leadership, when they hear you tell them that something that you are doing helps to achieve business outcomes, which is increased adoption rates, you are basically speaking their language and they listen to you more. You also want to tell them that doing and basically measuring change adoption metrics help to improve employee engagement. So you are basically identifying and being able to address resistance early on. Another thing you want to tell your leaders is change adoption metrics help provide a higher ROI. How? By linking adoption directly to business results, you can track how adoption is increasing and helping to achieve higher ROI. Another thing you can tell them is decreased risk. So it prevents the possibility of the project failing based on resistance and the investment that your leaders have invested in the project going to waste. So when you can tie all of these different points when making your case for doing change adoption metrics, it really gets buy-in from your leadership. Now, here is a question for you to ask yourself. What is the fastest way to do change adoption metrics without wasting hours? Watch the next video for the 6 steps to doing change adoption metrics the right way. See you there.